Chapter 35-25. Heavy Master Jian Wushuang had just walked out of the stronghold of Star Palace, so he naturally noticed Heavy Master. Heavy Master, the one next to him should be his brother, Purple Sound Master, right? 600 years ago, when I first arrived at Star Palace, Heavy Master was very anxious to ask Marquis Duan Yu to save his brother. Now it seems that he has been saved. However, the Heavy Master doesn't seem to want to talk to me. Jian Wushuang touched his nose with a strange expression, but he did not care. He had already refined the bead that hid the aura of divine power. He used the bead's saint aura and deliberately disguised it as the aura of a principal's master. Therefore, when the Heavy Master saw him, he thought that he had broken through to become a principal's master. In fact, he was still an immortal saint. However, even though he was just an immortal saint, Jian Wushuang still went to the Devil Smoke Valley alone. The Devil Smoke Valley was filled with black smoke, which was a kind of miasma. It had a certain erosive effect on the divine body of cultivators, especially in the deepest part of the Devil Smoke Valley, where the miasma was extremely strong. Even principal's masters in the 4 or 5 void realms could hardly resist it. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the experts who dared to go to the deepest part of the Devil Smoke Valley were all above the 6 void realms. Just like what the Heavy Master had said earlier, they were not venturing into the depths of the Devil Smoke Valley. Within the hazy black smoke, the Heavy Master and the Purple Sound Master were moving forward side by side. As they had just entered the Devil Smoke Valley, they were still at the outermost perimeter of the valley. The dangers here were much less, hence, the two of them were not too nervous. They were chatting as they moved forward. I don't know what kind of ability that Heavenly Sword Marquis has. 600 years ago, it was said that Marquis Duan Yu personally went to the astral world to bring him in. When I saw him at that time, he was clearly just an immortal saint, but Marquis Duan Yu said that his strength might not be inferior to mine. Brother, don't you think this is a joke? The Heavy Master curled his lips and said, "An immortal saint is as powerful as you." Purple Sound Master shook his head and smiled. Maybe there's a special relationship between Sword Sky Marquis and Marquis Duan Yu. Yeah, I think so too. You didn't see it, but I sensed him. The blood robe Hes wearing is actually a low-level universe true treasure armor, the blood crystal armor. It's one of the top-tier universe true treasure armors, and it's more valuable than the one I got before. Now that it's in his hands, I'm sure he didn't exchange it for it with his contribution points. Maybe it was Marquis Duan Yu who gave it to him, said Heavy Master. Haha, why? Are you jealous of him or the blood crystal armor on his body? Purple Sound Master laughed. In fact, even if there is a special relationship between Marquis Duan Yu and Sword Sky Marquis Duan Yu can't give him a low-level universe true treasure of Star Palace by himself. Even if he wanted to give it to him, he had to exchange it with his contribution points. That's true, said Heavy Master. But I still can't accept it. A great being from Star Palace risked his life to get a true treasure, and yet, it was given to him for nothing. Look at him. With his power, Hes wandering around Devil Smoke Valley alone. It won't be long before other great beings find him and kill him. His blood crystal armor will naturally fall into the hands of others. If I get this blood crystal armor, my power will completely recover to peak level, or even stronger. Alright, don't be jealous. If you want a true treasure, you can look for it in Devil Smoke Valley. There are many opportunities and true treasures here. If you're lucky, you might be able to get a higher level true treasure armor, Purple Sound Master said. Yes, you're right. Heavy Master nodded. However, at that moment, a thin figure suddenly appeared in the black smoke in front of them. Huh! Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master immediately looked over. This person is Bitter Hand Master from the Punishment God Sector. Bitter Hand Master is only at the 4th level of the Void Realm, and he doesn't have a universe true treasure armor to protect his body. However, he has an offensive godly weapon that is at the level of a low-level universe true treasure. In addition, he has a domain type true treasure and a soul defense type true treasure, which is the best in the star sector. Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master recognized the figure in front of them immediately, and at the same time, they immediately remembered the information about this person. In an instant, their gazes became somewhat heated. And that bitter hand master also noticed their gazes at the first moment, and was startled on the spot. His expression also changed drastically, and without any hesitation, he immediately turned around and fled madly. "Haha, you still want to escape? Bitter hand master, why are you in such a hurry to escape? You should stay and have a good talk with us brothers." Both Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master laughed loudly, and their speed immediately erupted as they chased after Bitter Hand Master. On the universe battlefield, the great beings from various forces and factions did not need to pay attention to any rules. When they saw each other, as long as they thought they were stronger than the other, they could directly intercept and kill or plunder. Now that the two of them saw Bitter Hand Master, the first thing they understood was that Bitter Hand Master could not compete with either of them. Besides, Bitter Hand Master had an offensive godly weapon at the level of a universe elementary true treasure. There were also several top-tier true treasures within the star sector. These things were very attractive to both Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master. Therefore, the two of them made a decision without hesitation. They wanted to kill Bitter Hand Master in front of them and seize the treasures in his hands. However, as the two of them chased after him, they discovered that although this Bitter Hand Master was not very strong, his escape speed was very impressive. The two of them had already burst forth with their fastest speed, however, they were unable to close the distance between them. And during the chase, Zeeming Master also discovered something. Something isn't right. The direction this Bitter Hand Master is fleeing toward is actually the tornado stream. Zeeming Master frowned. The tornado stream is filled with incomparably terrifying hurricanes on both sides. Even the divine bodies of experts at the six void realms could be easily annihilated. Although there is a passageway in the middle of the tornado stream that can be directly passed through, the passageway isn't wide. Once an intense battle occurs, the slightest carelessness would cause one to fall into the hurricanes on both sides and be doomed forever. The Bitter Hand Master is not slow. He has a chance to escape from us. Why is he running toward Whirlwind Brook? Chapter 35-26. Traps. There were many dangerous places in Devil Smoke Valley. One of them was Whirlwind Brook, and it was quite famous. The surroundings of Whirlwind Brook were filled with terrifying hurricanes. Those hurricanes could easily kill Principal's Masters. Even the Principal's Masters of the 6 states of void would have a high chance of dying if they were caught in those hurricanes. Such a dangerous place was a taboo for ordinary cultivators, and they did not dare to go there easily. Therefore, seeing that Bitter Hand Master was actually fleeing in the direction of the tornado stream, Zeeming Master felt a little strange at the first moment. However, Heavy Master snorted coldly and said, "This place is relatively close to the tornado stream. Bitter Hand Master was chased by you and me, so he could only run for his life. It's normal for him to flee to the tornado stream in a moment of desperation. It's not a big deal. He's a Principal's Master at the bottom of the 4 levels of the void, and he doesn't have any great power or background behind him. Could it be that he wants to scheme against the two of us?" One Heavy Master did not mind. Hearing his words, Purple Sound Master nodded slightly. "You're right." Although the two of them sensed that Bitter Hand Master was fleeing in a strange direction, they did not pay too much attention to it and continued to chase after him. The main reason was that the two of them were more confident in working together. In the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley, there were only a few top experts who could truly threaten the two of them, and this Bitter Hand Master did not have a big background, thus, they were not too vigilant and on guard. After a round of pursuit, the 3 of them quickly entered the Whirlwind Brook. The moment they entered the Whirlwind Brook, Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master immediately sensed the terrifying hurricanes on both sides. Although the hurricanes were still some distance away from them, they still gave them a feeling of fear and trepidation. "Heavy, be careful. The hurricanes in this Whirlwind Brook are extremely terrifying. If either one of us were to fall into these hurricanes, we would most likely die," Purple Sound Master said. "I know." Heavy Master nodded heavily. However, his gaze was fixed on Bitter Hand Master, and a fierce light flickered in the depths of his eyes. Bitter Hand Master's speed has already slowed down. Millimeter. Purple Sound Master nodded. From the moment we chased after him, his speed was close to ours at the start. However, gradually, his speed slowed down. It seems that he used some sort of secret technique previously. In a short period of time, he was able to burst out with a speed close to ours. However, as time passes, his speed will become slower and slower. This way, we can catch up to him. During his escape, Bitter Hand Master's speed had been slowing down. It was precisely because of this that the two of them felt that they had a chance to chase down and kill Bitter Hand Master, which was why they did not hesitate to chase him all the way to this whirlwind brook. However, right at this moment, the figure of Bitter Hand Master, who had been frantically fleeing ahead, suddenly stopped. He stopped in the central area of the whirlwind brook passage. After which, he turned his head to look at Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master. A cold and strange smile appeared on his face. Heavy Master from Star Palace and solitary expert Purple Sound Master have chased after me for such a long time. Aren't the two of you tired? Bitter Hand Master said coldly. Tchem. Heavy Master and Ziming Master's expressions sank. From Bitter Hand Master's expression and his words, they immediately had a bad premonition. Bitter Hand Master's gaze suddenly turned to the side. I wonder if these two principals masters are in accordance with your wishes, my lord? My lord. Heavy Master and Ziming Master's expressions changed. Sure enough, after Bitter Hand Master finished speaking, a human figure slowly stepped out from the hurricane on the other side. Someone is here. And he is hiding in the hurricane? Heavy Master was shocked. They knew very well how terrifying the hurricanes on both sides of the tornado stream were. Even the hurricanes at the edge could easily kill a 5-level Principal's Master of the Void Realm. As for a 6-level Principal's Master of the Void Realm, they could only withstand it. Only a great being at the 6th level of the Void Realm with a universe true treasure armor and above could stay in the hurricanes at the edge with relative ease. And the person who appeared now was obviously hiding in the hurricanes at the edge. While enduring the attacks of the hurricanes, he was also using them to perfectly hide himself. Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master did not notice that there was someone there at the first moment. It was not until Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master arrived here, and they were very close to him, that he finally walked out of the hurricane and appeared in front of Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master. To be able to do this, there was no doubt about his strength. Bitter Hand Master, you did well. This is for you. The person who walked out of the hurricane glanced at Bitter Hand Master and threw an interspatial ring over. Thank you, my lord. Bitter Hand Master received the interspatial ring, and his face revealed a look of surprise and joy. At this moment, Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master had also clearly seen the appearance of the person and recognized him at the first moment. Once they recognized him, their hearts instantly trembled. Godfey Master. It's actually him. Wasn't he adventuring in the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley? When did he come to the outer region of Devil's Smoke Valley? Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master's expressions changed drastically. Godfey Master was an extremely powerful expert who had risen to power in Devil's Smoke Valley all these years, and he was an absolute madman who only knew how to kill. When he roamed the Devil's Smoke Valley, he would kill all the experts he met, regardless of their strength or background. Furthermore, he was terrifyingly strong. He was a peak existence among the experts of the 6 Void Realms. Such a madman was feared by all the powers, including the experts of the various astral worlds. They did not dare to provoke him. For example, the Star Palace had already given the order that all the experts who roamed the Devil's Smoke Valley, as long as they encountered this Godfey Master, they would immediately flee for their lives. Moreover, they would immediately flee when they discovered the other party's existence. They absolutely could not give the other party the chance to get close to them. Heavy Master naturally remembered this point. However, he had never expected that this Godfey Master would actually come from the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley to this outer region. Moreover, he had come just as he came. He had actually joined forces with Bitter Hand Master. He had let Bitter Hand Master set up a trap to lure him and Purple Sound Master over. Now, he and Purple Sound Master had already arrived here, and Godfey Master was right in front of them, just a short distance away. Brother, run. Heavy Master did not hesitate. After confirming that the other party was Godfey Master, he immediately let out a roar and turned around to flee frantically. Chapter 35-27, The person who came to save you run. Purple Soundmaster was also burning with anxiety, and he started to run away madly. Seeing this, God Fey Master sneered, "You are already jumping on my face, and you still want to escape?" Sue. God Fey Master's speed burst out. As a peak expert of the 6 states of the void, his speed was much faster than that of Heavy Master and Purple Soundmaster. Moreover, the distance between them was not far, and with his speed, he caught up in a short moment. Die. God Fey Master held a golden hammer in each of his hands. These 2 golden hammers seemed to weigh hundreds of millions of kilograms. As God Fey Master waved his right hand, one of the golden hammers streaked across the void like a bolt of golden lightning. It struck out in the direction of Heavy Master and Purple Soundmaster. Heavy Master and Purple Soundmaster were so frightened that their expressions changed drastically. "Attack together!" Heavy Master shouted in a low voice, and the heavy sword behind him immediately went up to meet it. Purple Soundmaster also unleashed all of his power at the first moment, and a purple battle blade slashed out like a purple demon. Heavy Master and Purple Soundmaster were not weak, and they were both pinnacle great beings at the 4th level of the Void Realm. Furthermore, one of them had cultivated a special secret technique, and the other had 2 universe true treasures on him. If they were to clash head-on, they were not weaker than ordinary great beings of the 5th level of the Void Realm. Now that the 2 of them were working together, they were not completely defenseless against God Fey Master. Peng! Heavy Master spat out a mouthful of blood, and his godly body trembled crazily. More than 40% of the godly power in his body was consumed. As for Purple Soundmaster, his godly body was heavily injured because he had the protection of a low-level universe true treasure armor. However, the amount of godly power consumed was much better than Heavy Master's. However, the rebounding force created by the collision caused the distance between the 2 of them and God Fey Master to widen. The 2 of them started to flee frantically once again. At the same time, Heavy Master took out his Star Palace token and hurriedly sent a message to the token. "Mayday, Mayday. I've already fought head-on with God Fey Master, and I've already used up a lot of my godly power. Anyone who is near, come and save me." As soon as the news of Heavy Master was spread out, most of the experts who were adventuring in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley received the news and immediately responded. "God Fey Master? He actually came to the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley? Heavy Master, how could you be so careless and actually fight with God Fey Master? You should have immediately fled when you saw God Fey Master from afar. Now that you've fought him head-on, how could you escape? Being targeted by God Fey Master? Then how can we save you? Even if we can rush over, wouldn't it be suicide? I don't fear God Fey Master too much, but unfortunately, I am too far away from Tornado Stream. There is no way I can rush over. Heavy Master, you'd better pray for your own good. Heavy, there is nothing we can do to redeem you." Most of the Principal's Masters who were adventuring outside Devil Smoke Valley had sent news. However, it was either because they were too far away that they could not make it in time, or even if they were relatively close, they were not as strong as Heavy Master. Rushing over would also be courting death, and it would be of no use at all. Naturally, none of them could do anything about it. After receiving these replies, Heavy Master's heart turned cold. But right at this moment, "Heavy Master, I just happened to be near Tornado Stream, and I'll be arriving at the entrance of Tornado Stream soon. Hurry over to my side as soon as possible, and I'll help you escape." A message was suddenly transmitted over. "Yes, this is." Heavy Master was startled, but then his expression became strange. Because the person who transmitted this message to him was none other than Heavenly Sword Marquis, whom he had not thought highly of before and thought that the other party was seeking his own death by coming to Devil Smoke Valley. Sword Heaven Marquis, he is also near Tornado Stream, and he is already rushing over here? Heavy Master narrowed his eyes. Although he came here to save me, his strength, I don't care about that. Let's escape first. Heavy Master still did not believe in Jian Wushuang's strength. However, in the current situation, Jian Wushuang was the last straw, so he had to grab hold of it. The Tornado Stream passage was not long. With the speed of Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master, they soon reached the entrance of the Tornado Stream, and Jian Wushuang arrived there just in time. Is that God Fei Master? Jian Wushuang stood at the entrance. His soul power had already sensed the existence of God Fei Master, and at the same time, he had also sensed the danger of the Heavy Master and the Purple Sound Master. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang activated the Golden Sky Painting banner. Space-time domain. A vast amount of space-time power merged into the Golden Sky Painting banner. The Golden Sky Painting banner shook slightly and immediately merged with the surrounding void. Hualala. An endless amount of time and space power visible to the naked eye swept out like a wave of air. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge space-time ocean. The space-time ocean covered the entire world around it, and the entire world was under Jian Wushuang's control. The Golden Banner was a Universe Supreme Treasure to begin with, and it was an advanced Universe Supreme Treasure that focused on space-time. Over the years, as Jian Wushuang's strength increased and he became more proficient in the use of time and space rules, he was able to perform some of the techniques in the Golden Sky Painting flag better. From the time and space imprisonment at the beginning to the time and space imprisonment, now, he was able to use the complete time and space domain. The effect of the time and space domain was actually similar to that of an ordinary domain-type advanced universe true treasure. The difference was that an ordinary advanced domain-type true treasure mainly suppressed the opponent's strength, but the time and space domain suppressed the opponent's speed to the greatest extent. For example, when Jian Wushuang used the space-time domain and used it, all the space-time power pressed down on God Fei Master's body, instantly reducing her speed dramatically. Heavy Master, Purple Sound Master, both of you, get out of here quickly, Jian Wushuang shouted. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Heavy Master looked up at Jian Wushuang. At the same time, he also noticed that God Fei Master's speed had been greatly reduced, and he was immediately overjoyed. He did not have time to thank Jian Wushuang and rushed to the void with Master Purple Sound Master at their fastest speed. After all, the two of them were not suppressed by the space-time domain at all. God Fei Master also looked at Jian Wushuang. Did you call for help? God Fei Master narrowed her eyes and stared at Jian Wushuang. I've never seen this person in the information. He must be a Principal's Master who just appeared. However, his universe true treasure in space-time is extremely rare. Chapter 3528. Flying-type true treasure. God Fei Master was very knowledgeable. He could tell that the time-space true treasure Jian Wushuang was using was of a very high level. Otherwise, it would not have exerted such a great pressure on his speed. If I'm not mistaken, this should be a senior universe true treasure in terms of time and space. It might even be at the top level among senior universe true treasures. God Fei Master's eyes narrowed slightly. A true treasure in terms of time and space is extremely valuable. It's not much more valuable than an ordinary true treasure armor. As for a time and space true treasure that has reached the level of an advanced universe true treasure, I'm afraid it's even more valuable than the combination of Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master. Thinking of this, God Fei Master's eyes locked on Jian Wushuang. He did not chase after Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master. Instead, he rushed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was not as good as God Fei Master. God Fei Master is coming for me. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He guessed that God Fei Master was thinking about his golden banner. Haha, it depends on whether you have the ability to think about my true treasure. Jian Wushuang smiled. He turned around and rushed toward the void. God Fei Master followed him at full speed. As for Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master, they had already escaped. That was close. We were almost killed by you, God Fei Master. Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master stood in the void not far away from Tornado Stream. Both of them were still in fear. God Fei Master is too terrifying. He lost more than 40% of my divine power in one move. He could have killed me in another 2 or 3 moves. Fortunately, Heavenly Sword Marquis came in time and stopped him for us. Otherwise, Heavy Master sighed softly. Heavy Master, you previously said that Heavenly Sword Marquis came to Devil Smoke Valley alone to seek death. However, in the blink of an eye, he saved you. If it weren't for him, the two of us would have been doomed, Purple Sound Master said. It was indeed my fault. I was too stupid. When I see him after this, I will definitely apologize to him in person, Heavy Master said. Not just apologize. This time, he saved us brothers. We must remember this favor. We should be grateful to him, Purple Sound Master said. Of course. But now, the troublesome thing is that God Fey Master has his eyes on him. We don't know if he can escape from God Fey Master's hands, Heavy Master said worriedly. Don't worry. Heavenly Sword Marquis has a universe true treasure in the aspect of time and space, and it seems to be of a high level. Even God Fey Master's speed is greatly suppressed by him. As long as God Fey Master's speed is constantly suppressed, he shouldn't be able to catch up with Heavenly Sword Marquis, so he won't pose any threat to him, Purple Sound Master said. Well, I hope so. The Heavy Master nodded slightly. In the vast void outside Devil Smoke Valley, Jian Wushuang and God Fey Master were chasing each other rapidly. It had to be said that God Fey Master was an expert at the peak of the sixth realm of the Void Realm, so he had some strength. Even though he was limited by the space-time domain, his speed was still very fast. Unfortunately, in terms of speed, Jian Wushuang was also very good at it. If God Fey Master had not been suppressed by the space-time domain, Jian Wushuang's speed would have been much slower than his. However, because of the pressure of the space-time domain, Jian Wushuang's flying speed was actually a little faster than God Fey Master's. God Fey Master, you can't catch up with me at all. Do you want to waste time following me? Jian Wushuang chuckled as he flew. Can't catch up with you? God Fey Master sneered and looked around the void. There shouldn't be any experts around here. In that case, there's no need to hide anymore. As soon as he finished speaking, God Fey Master's body shook and a pair of huge golden wings appeared behind him. The golden wings had beautiful lines as if they had grown on God Fey Master's body. However, Jian Wushuang knew that the golden wings were a true treasure and an elementary universe true treasure. A flying universe true treasure? Jian Wushuang was stunned when he saw the golden wings. There were many types of true treasures, including flying, space-time true treasures, and suppression true treasures. They were much more precious than ordinary attack true treasures and true treasure armors. What God Fey Master took out was obviously a flying elementary universe true treasure. Wow! As soon as the golden wings appeared, God Fey Master transformed into a golden stream of light, leaving golden phantoms in the void. His speed was more than twice as fast as before. The gap between him and Jian Wushuang, and it was starting to close up fast. So fast. Jian Wushuang's pupils contracted. This God Fey Master has been wandering in Devil Smoke Valley for quite some time. Not only has he killed wantonly, he has even been hunted down by experts at the pinnacle of the 6 levels of void. However, no matter if he is killing or being hunted down, no one has ever heard of him possessing a flying type universe true treasure. From the looks of it, he has quite a few tricks up his sleeve. Jian Wushuang sighed in admiration. After seeing the speed of God Fey Master's golden wings, Jian Wushuang understood that he could not get rid of God Fey Master by relying on his speed alone. The latter would certainly catch up with him. In this case, Jian Wushuang simply did not bother to run anymore. Buzz! Jian Wushuang suddenly stopped in the void and turned to look at God Fey Master. Haha, kid, you know you can't escape, so you don't want to run anymore? God Fey Master laughed loudly and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The golden wings on his back were still unfurled. It seemed that he was ready to pounce on Jian Wushuang at any time. God Fey Master, you're too conceited. The only reason I ran away just now was because I didn't want to cause trouble. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly without any fear in his heart. Although God Fey Master was very powerful and was already at the peak of the 6 void realms, and was well known in Devil Smoke Valley, Jian Wushuang was no longer comparable to before. 600 years ago, when he was adventuring in the demon realm, it was impossible for him to face an expert at the peak of the 6 void realms. Jian Wushuang was even shocked when he saw the fierce battle between Demon Master Chanhua and Da Ying, but now, 600 years later, as his strength soared, he had nothing to fear from a mere expert at the peak of the 6th realm of the void. Chapter 3529, Fighting God Fey Master. God Fey Master, I've heard that you've been slaughtering people in Devil Smoke Valley all these years. Only a few people have survived. But today, I'd like to see how powerful you are. Jian Wushuang smiled. The Blood Mountain sword had already appeared in his hand. Boy, you're so arrogant. Since you're courting death, I'll grant you your wish. God Fei Master's eyes turned cold. The pair of golden wings on her back flapped violently, and a gale instantly blew. God Fei Master also turned into a golden stream of light. In an instant, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. God Fei Master held a golden sledgehammer in each hand. One of the sledgehammers turned into a golden bolt of lightning and struck toward Jian Wushuang furiously. Jian Wushuang had already activated his life divine power the moment God Fei Master attacked. He also activated his heaven-cleaving skill. I've been cultivating in seclusion in Star Palace for 600 years. I'd like to see how much progress I've made in these 600 years. Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with a fierce light. The moment God Fei Master swung the golden hammer, he took a step forward and swung the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. At this moment, Jian Wushuang unleashed all of his power without holding back. At the same time, he activated the first stage of the Blood Crystal Armor with his divine power, which instantly increased the power of his basic divine power by 10 times. Whoosh! A blood-red sword light suddenly descended and collided with the golden hammer in the blink of an eye. Even though his opponent was an expert at the peak of the 6 void realms, Jian Wushuang had no intention of retreating. Boom! An earth-shaking explosion suddenly sounded. A large amount of black smoke in the void was blown away by the power and disappeared. The surrounding void even began to tremble violently. Whoosh! God Fei Master turned into a golden flowing light again and retreated rapidly. As for Jian Wushuang, he also retreated for a distance before coming to a stop. On the surface, the two were evenly matched. God Fei Master raised her head and looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. You're an expert of the 6th realm of the void. Why, are you surprised? Jian Wushuang smiled. There are dozens of star worlds in this territory, and there are countless experts. Isn't it normal for a 6th realm of the void realm to suddenly appear? Like you didn't have any fame before. Did you suddenly appear? God Fei Master understood. Indeed, there were many experts in this territory. Not only in the universe battlefield, but there were also many top experts hiding in the star worlds. Many of them had yet to venture into the 3 battlefields, therefore, they were not famous. However, not being famous did not mean that they were weak. When God Fei Master saw Jian Wushuang today, he immediately felt that Jian Wushuang was a stranger. Secondly, the divine power aura emitted by Jian Wushuang was very ordinary. At the level of an ordinary principles master, it made him think that Jian Wushuang was very weak. He only dared to venture into the universe battlefield because he had a time-space type universe supreme treasure. But now, he realized that Jian Wushuang was also very strong. Although he could not compete with Jian Wushuang, he was not much weaker than Jian Wushuang. If you can compete with me, you will be famous in the universe battlefield. Boy, what's your name? God Fei Master stared at Jian Wushuang. My name, I use the blood sword in my hand as a weapon. You can call me Blood Sword Master. Jian Wushuang smiled. He did not want to continue using the name of Heavenly Sword Marquis. After all, Heavenly Sword Marquis was too famous in the Divine Beginning Realm, and the 3 Saint Realms of the Divine Beginning Realm dreamed of killing him. Unfortunately, they could not do it in the Divine Beginning Realm, but it was different in the Universe Battlefield. Although the 3 Saint Realm Masters would not rush to the Universe Battlefield, they could think of other ways to kill him in the Universe Battlefield. Therefore, he decided to change his name. The name Blood Sword Master was derived from his Blood Mountain sword, which was why he had such a personality. Blood Sword Master, you are indeed extraordinary to be able to fight me head-on. However, you ruined my plan today. So, don't think that I will let you go so easily, God Fei Master said. Haha, since you won't let me go, then go ahead. Use whatever means you have. To be honest, I really hope you can find a way to kill me, Jian Wushuang said with a bright smile. As you wish. God Fei Master did not hesitate. His figure flashed and his terrifying speed burst out again. Even with the suppression of the spacetime domain, God Fei Master's speed was still far faster than Jian Wushuang's. This time, when God Fei Master appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, he brandished his golden hammers at the same time. The two hammers were like two golden fire wheels, hurling at Jian Wushuang continuously and ferociously. Jian Wushuang immediately defended himself. Bang! 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 Deafening sounds of collisions and explosions rang out in the void. Jian Wushuang and God Fei Master had fought with all their might, and Jian Wushuang had used the peerless sword manual he had created to its fullest. However, God Fei Master's two sledgehammers were obviously more terrifying. Each of the two sledgehammers was extremely powerful and fierce. Jian Wushuang had to use all his strength to defend against the power of a single hammer strike, but the two sledgehammers kept attacking him crazily. It put a great pressure on Jian Wushuang. God Fei Master is really fierce. His strength is indeed terrifying, especially his two hammers. They are too powerful. I'm at a disadvantage in close combat with him. If it weren't for my blood crystal armor, I wouldn't have been able to resist them. Jian Wushuang's face was solemn. He could see that God Fei Master's strength was not at the peak of the 6 void realms. However, the two hammers in his hands and the supreme treasure armor he was wearing were both universe supreme treasures. Moreover, her level was not low. Coupled with the golden wings on her back, her battle strength was no weaker than that of an ordinary expert at the peak of the 6 void realms. Jian Wushuang had already mastered the destruction principles, so with the addition of his will power, life divine power, and heaven-cleaving skill, he could also unleash the battle strength of an expert at the 6 void realms. His blood crystal armor was of a very high level. After activating the first level of power, it increased his basic divine power by 10 times, which gave him an advantage in the power of basic divine power. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang was at a great disadvantage in terms of offensive divine weapons. Chapter 35:30 Retreat unscathed. Jian Wushuang's offensive magic weapon, Blood Mountain Sword, was not even a universe supreme treasure, so it was naturally inferior to the two hammers in the hands of God Fei Master. Moreover, in terms of absolute arts, Jian Wushuang was also inferior to God Fei Master. As a result, when the two fought fiercely, Jian Wushuang was completely suppressed. Blood Sword Master, is that all you've got? Humph, I thought so highly of you just now. God Fei Master snorted coldly. How dare you ruin my plan with such strength? You're courting death. God Fei Master's eyes were cold. The two golden hammers in his hands contained earth-shaking power. However, as soon as God Fei Master finished speaking, the power of his two golden hammers increased by another level. In an instant, Jian Wushuang felt his pressure increase sharply. Any one of the two hammers could crush him completely. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang barely withstood the attack of the golden hammers, but he suddenly retreated. After regaining his balance, Jian Wushuang smiled and said, God Fei Master, how about you take my sword? God Fei Master narrowed her eyes. Jian Wushuang had already made his move. He was still some distance away, but he had already slashed out the Blood Mountain Sword in his hand. The moment the sword was slashed out, a shocking destructive will suddenly swept up. This destructive will, with a will to die, pressed down on God Fei Master in an overwhelming manner. God Fei Master raised his head with a hint of surprise in his eyes, but his speed was not slow. The golden hammer in his right hand suddenly burst out with golden light. Star flash. Swoosh. The golden light flashed and disappeared like a golden meteor streaking across the void. The golden hammer had already collided with the sword light that Jian Wushuang had slashed out. When the two collided, a burst of terrifying power immediately erupted and swept out in all directions with a huge airwave. At the center of the airwave, God Fei Master's body trembled slightly and then staggered back a few steps. As for Jian Wushuang, he did not take a step back. A supreme skill? God Fei Master looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. I tried my best to use my strongest skill, till death do us part. In the end, I only gained a slight advantage in a head-on collision with him. As expected of God Fei Master, your strength is really impressive. Jian Wushuang smiled. To the death is the latest trick he has created in his 600 years in the constellation. This unique move was mainly because he had seen the scene of the heaven ancestor waving that axe in the forest. That axe not only contained the complete will to destroy, but also contained many mysteries, which also had a great impact on him. After he mastered the principles of destruction, he combined the principles of time and space, the principles of reincarnation, and his swordsmanship comprehension to create this latest move. This move did not only contain the will to destroy, Jian Wushuang also mastered the three principles, as well as his swordsmanship attainments to the fullest. But in terms of level, this move, indeed has reached the peak of the 6th level absolute art level. Although God Fei Master's combat power was at the level of a great being at the pinnacle of the 6 levels of Void Realm, the reason he was so powerful was largely due to the fact that he had a universe true treasure. His combat strength was only relatively strong among the 6 Void Realms, and he had never created a peak level 6 secret skill. Therefore, Jian Wushuang was able to gain a slight advantage in the fight against God Fei Master's secret skill. However, this advantage was very small. God Fei Master, I've learned my lesson in today's battle. There's still a long way to go. If we meet again in the future, we'll fight again, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. You want to leave? God Fei Master's eyes were cold. The wings on his back had already spread out. It was obvious that he did not intend to let Jian Wushuang leave so easily. With God Fei Master's speed and the help of the wings on his back, he could easily catch up to Jian Wushuang even under the suppression of the spacetime domain. Jian Wushuang naturally knew this, but he smiled and said, God Fei Master, there's something I haven't told you. If I really want to leave, there aren't many people in the universe battlefield who can stop me. Really? God Fei Master narrowed her eyes, eager to try. Goodbye. Jian Wushuang smiled and disappeared in front of God Fei Master. What? God Fei Master looked at the empty void in front of her in astonishment. What happened? Blood Sword Master disappeared. God Fei Master frowned. Teleportation? No, this is Devil Smoke Valley, one of the universe battlefields. The space and time in Devil Smoke Valley are distorted, so teleportation is impossible. Everyone knew that teleportation was impossible in the 3 battlefields. It was not only because there were too many dangerous places and too many obstacles in the 3 battlefields. More importantly, the space and time in the 3 battlefields were different from the space and time in the universe. The space and time here were not balanced, so even great beings who were proficient in the principles of space and time, they could not teleport in the 3 battlefields. But the scene in front of them. He suddenly disappeared without leaving any soul aura. This is obviously a teleportation method. Blood Sword Master, God Fei's expression was a little ugly. He observed the surrounding void for a long time before he was sure Jian Wushuang had indeed used a teleportation method to leave. Blood Sword Master, I'll remember you, God Fei Master muttered. He was not famous before, but now he has the battle strength of the 6 Void Realms. Although he is still far from the peak of the 6 Void Realms, he has many techniques. Not only does he have an advanced universe supreme treasure in spacetime, but he also knows how to teleport in the universe battlefield. It won't be long before he becomes famous in the universe battlefield. It's a pity that he can teleport. Unless he is an expert who is also proficient in the spacetime rule and can confine spacetime, it's impossible for anyone to keep Blood Sword Master. At least, I can't do anything to him. God Fei Master shook his head. He had to admit that even though he was stronger than Jian Wushuang in terms of physical strength, he could not do anything to Jian Wushuang even if Jian Wushuang appeared in front of him again. If Jian Wushuang wanted to leave, there was no way he could keep him. I originally wanted to quietly go to the outer area to hunt some prey and get some benefits, but I met a Blood Sword Master at the beginning. How unlucky. God Fei Master sighed softly and turned to leave. Chapter 35-31, Shame. This was the entrance to Tornado Stream. Jian Wushuang had come here before and left a space mark here. After using spacetime teleportation, he had returned to this place. After getting rid of God Fei Master, Jian Wushuang began to think about the battle just now. After 600 years of cultivation, although my strength has greatly improved and am no weaker than an ordinary expert of the 6 realms of the void, it's still very difficult for me to fight against an expert like God Fei Master who can exert the battle strength of the peak of the 6 realms of the void. At most, I can barely fight with her, Jian Wushuang thought. In the battle just now, he had not fought with God Fei Master for a long time, and he had forced her back twice. It did not seem like he was at a disadvantage, but Jian Wushuang knew very well, there was still a big gap between his strength and God Fei Master's. First, in terms of absolute arts, other than his strongest sword technique, the 7 sword techniques of the Peerless Sword Manual, which he had created, were only at the threshold of level 6 absolute arts, or even barely, compared to God Fei Master's absolute arts, there was a big gap. Secondly, in terms of true treasures, God Fei Master's offensive true treasures and true treasure armors were of a very high level, and he even had the assistance of a flying universe true treasure. Jian Wushuang's true treasure armors were fine, but the level of Blood Mountain Sword was a little too low. Just these 2 points alone, God Fei Master could crush him without any scruples. Jian Wushuang had a bigger problem. The reason why he could unleash power that was no less than that of an expert of the 6 void realms was because of his life divine power and the heaven cleaving skill. It was equivalent to giving him 2 more levels of willpower. However, the life divine power was fine, as it only stimulated the potential of a perfect creature. It would not be a burden to him, but the heaven cleaving skill consumed a lot of his divine power. As a perfect chaotic creature, his divine power was vast, hundreds of times more than that of a regular principles master. However, the heaven cleaving skill consumed a lot of divine power. Even if Jian Wushuang used it at all costs, in a fierce battle, he could only use the heaven cleaving skill about 20 times at most. In other words, he could only use the power of an expert in the 6th realm in 10 or 20 attacks. The rest of his attacks could not meet that requirement. Naturally, he could not keep fighting with such combat strength. Therefore, when he fought with God Fei Master just now, he chose to escape immediately after he had a simple understanding of her strength and used his strongest combat strength. The reason was not that he did not want to continue fighting with God Fei Master, but because he could not keep his strongest combat strength and had to escape. Although this battle has not been long, I have already gained a lot, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. This battle allowed him to clearly understand his current strength and some of his shortcomings. He also understood how to improve his strength. First of all, he had to improve his absolute arts. He had to improve the 7 sword moves of the Wushuang Sword Manual as soon as possible. This was the most urgent matter. Secondly, he had to find a more powerful attack supreme treasure. As for the Blood Mountain Sword, unless he found another expert to refine it, it would be difficult for it to meet his requirements. As for finding a way to fuse all 3 rules that he had mastered, it would take a longer time. Jian Wushuang could only take it slowly. Jian Wushuang was deep in thought when suddenly, Heavenly Sword Marquis. Heavy Master's voice came from the void beside him. Jian Wushuang came back to his senses and immediately looked over. When he got rid of God Fei and returned to the entrance of Tornado Stream, he had already sent a message to Heavy Master. Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master, who had received the message, immediately rushed over. Heavenly Sword Marquis, did you lose God Fei Master? Heavy Master asked first. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. God Fei Master is very fast. Unfortunately, I have a space-time domain, which greatly limits his speed. He can't catch up with me at all, so he had to leave. Jian Wushuang lied and did not tell Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master that he had actually fought with God Fei Master. Moreover, he had left in front of God Fei Master, so God Fei Master could only watch. It's good that he has left. God Fei Master has been wandering in the depths of Devil Smoke Valley and killing crazily. Many experts have died at his hands. However, because he has killed too many people, experts from various forces in the Star Realms have become very wary of him. They have ordered to flee as soon as they see him. Our Star Palace has also given such an order. I didn't expect that God Fei Master would be so cunning. After knowing that the experts from various forces were on guard against him, he sneaked into the outer area and joined hands with Master Bitter Hand. He told Master Bitter Hand to leak his tracks in front of us to lure us to kill him. Meanwhile, he hid in the hurricane at the edge of Tornado Stream, waiting for us to fall into his trap. Purple Sound Master and I fell for his trick and almost died at his hands. Fortunately, you arrived, Heavenly Sword Marquis, Heavy Master said as he looked at Jian Wushuang. Suddenly, He bent down and gave Jian Wushuang a big bow. Heavy Master, what are you doing? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Heavenly Sword Marquis, don't reject me. I have to give you this big bow. Not only to thank you for your kindness, but also to apologize to you for the contempt I showed you. I was stupid and blind. Now that I think about it, I'm really ashamed, Heavy Master said sincerely. Heavy Master, you don't have to do this, Jian Wushuang said with a bitter smile. Heavenly Sword Marquis, just let him be, Purple Sound Master said. If you don't accept his gift, he won't be able to survive for the rest of his life. You know, when I saw you outside the Star Palace stronghold, Heavy Master told me that you were courting death by wandering around Devil Smoke Valley alone. Jian Wushuang was stunned. I'm ashamed, the Heavy Master apologized repeatedly. Jian Wushuang shook his head and accepted the gift, but he did not care. Axe One Master had given him information about many experts in the territory, including those in Star Palace. Of course, there was also an introduction about the Heavy Master. In addition to his strength, the information also mentioned the character of the Heavy Master, which was reckless and one-track-minded. However, he was extremely loyal, which was evident from the time when Master Purple Sound Master was trapped. The Heavy Master had spared no effort to ask Marquis Duanyu to help him. Jian Wushuang was very willing to befriend such a person who valued loyalty. Chapter 35-32, Paluo God. Because he knew how Heavy Master was like, even though he knew that Heavy Master did not like him, when he found out that Heavy Master was being hunted by God Fei Master, he still rushed over to save him. If it were anyone else, even if Jian Wushuang came to save them, he would not be so enthusiastic. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I'll remember what happened today. I'll definitely return the favor in the future, Heavy Master said. Heavy Master, you're too kind. Jian Wushuang smiled. They were still exchanging pleasantries, but at this moment, Jian Wushuang and Heavy Master's expressions changed. What's wrong, you two? Purple Sound Master looked over. It's a message from my Star Palace saying that a universe supreme treasure is being born in the nearby territory. They want us to go there immediately, Heavy Master said seriously. A supreme treasure is being born? Purple Sound Master raised his eyebrows. If it's just an ordinary elementary universe supreme treasure, it will take a very short time for it to be born. Even if we get the news now, it's probably too late for us to go there. The person who sent the message must know this. But since he sent the message, could it be that it's an advanced universe supreme treasure? The 3 universe battlefields were filled with a large number of opportunities and treasures. For example, the birth of a true treasure was a common occurrence. As long as it was a universe true treasure, it would take a certain amount of time for it to be completely born. The higher the level of the true treasure, the longer it would take for it to be born. It's not an advanced universe true treasure, but its value is higher than an ordinary advanced universe true treasure, said Heavy Master. It's not an advanced universe true treasure, but its value is higher than that of an advanced universe true treasure. Could it be? Purple Sound Master immediately thought of a possibility. It's Paluo God. It's a part of Paluo God, Heavy Master said excitedly. Is it really Paluo God? Purple Sound Master became excited. Guys, what is this Paluo God? Why are you so excited? Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. Although he had received the message, it only said that it was a component of Paluo God. He had just entered the universe battlefield, so he did not know what Paluo God was. Heavy Master immediately explained, Paluo God is a very famous treasure in Devil Smoke Valley. No one knows what level it is exactly, but conservative estimates say that it is at least at the peak level, and its power is extremely strong. Unfortunately, this true treasure hasn't been complete since it was discovered. Instead, it has been disassembled and formed into parts. It is said that there are a total of 36 Paluo God parts, and these Paluo God parts alone have power equivalent to a low-level universe true treasure. However, if 3 Paluo God parts are combined together, their power is far higher than a high-level universe true treasure, and it is even close to the level of a top-tier true treasure. If there are more than 9 Paluo God parts, the combination of them would be extremely terrifying, even among top-tier universe supreme treasures. However, although there are 36 Paluo God parts, there seem to be less than 20 Paluo God parts in Devil Smoke Valley. Some parts have already been spread around. Some people have collected 3 Paluo God parts, but some don't. This makes the Paluo God parts even more valuable than ordinary advanced universe supreme treasures, even though they are only elementary universe supreme treasures. Is that so? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. It's a once-in-lifetime opportunity for us to see the Paluo God component appear near us. Let's go. We'll rush there immediately. If we're too late and let the Paluo God component fall into someone else's hands, we'll regret it, the Heavy Master said. Immediately, the 3 of them rushed toward the place where the Paluo God component had appeared. The Black Thunder Pool was also a dangerous place in Devil Smoke Valley. This place was filled with dark black divine lightning. These dark black divine lightning were extremely violent and powerful. Ordinary Principles Masters would dare to enter this Black Thunder Pool, but this Black Thunder Pool was only on the ground. There were some in the lower sky, but the void above was not touched. Thus, Principles Masters who passed by could choose to fly directly from the void above the Black Thunder Pool, not having to worry about encountering any dangers. However, today, a Holy Rod part was born in the Black Thunder Pool. When Jian Wushuang, Heavy Master, and Purple Sound Master arrived at the Black Thunder Pool, they immediately saw a black holy rod in the void in the middle of the pool. The black holy rod was not big, and it was smaller than ordinary stick-type supreme treasures. However, the power it emitted was quite impressive. Is that the Paluo God part? Jian Wushuang glanced at the black staff and narrowed his eyes slightly. Then, he noticed the human figure in the void near the black staff, and his expression became solemn. The 3 people appeared beside one of the human figures. Saber Python Master, Heavy Master greeted the man. Heavy Master, Purple Sound Master. Saber Python Master nodded slightly, but then he looked at Jian Wushuang and asked, "Who is this?" "He just arrived in our Star Palace. His name is..." Heavy Master did not finish his sentence. "Bloodsword, just call me Bloodsword," Jian Wushuang said first. "Bloodsword Master, it is very nice to meet you." Saber Python Master was very humble. Jian Wushuang also nodded slightly. Saber Python Master was a Principles Master in Star Palace, and his strength had reached the peak of the Void 4 realms. This time, Saber Python Master was the first to discover the appearance of the Paluo God component. He was also the one who had sent the message to them. "Saber Python, how long until the Paluo God component is born?" asked Heavy Master. Although the Paluo God component is only a low-level universe true treasure, it was decomposed by Paluo God. The time it takes for it to be born is not any shorter than a normal high-level universe true treasure. It has been a while since I discovered the Paluo God component. "It should be soon before the Paluo God component is born," said Saber Python Master. "However, it was born in the Black Thunder Pool. As long as it doesn't go underground, it's not dangerous. Therefore, people often pass by here. Although I was the first to see it, others still found it while I was waiting for it to be born. So far, many people have gathered here." Jian Wushuang and the other 2 also looked carefully at the people around them. At this moment, there were 8 experts waiting for the appearance of the Paluo God component, not counting them. Chapter 35-33 was born. The other 8 experts were divided into 4 camps. Jian Wushuang first looked at the burly man who had put a lot of pressure on them. The burly man was wearing red armor and carrying a huge axe on his back. He stood there with his arms folded like a statue, but he did not bother to look at anyone around him. "He is the 8-axe master, right?" Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. The 8-axe master was a solitary expert who had been wandering around Devil Smoke Valley all year round. He was extremely powerful and had reached the peak of the 5th Void Realm. Moreover, his axe skills were extremely violent and he had created a 6th-level absolute art. He was only one person, but the pressure he brought was much stronger than the other camps. Therefore, there was no other expert who had reached the peak of the 5th Void Realm. Among the other 3 camps, one had 2 experts of the 5th Void Realm working together, one had 1 expert of the 5th Void Realm and 1 expert of the peak of the 4th Void Realm. The remaining 3 experts of the 4th Void Realm were all in the same camp, including Jian Wushuang and the others. There were a total of 12 experts present. Fortunately, the strongest among these people is only the expert of the peak of the 5th Void Realm, Atax Master. There are no experts of the 6th Void Realm here. If the 4 of us work together, we can still have a chance, the Heavy Master said. This is the outer area of Devil's Smoke Valley after all. It's already good enough to have experts of the peak of the 5th Void Realm. As for experts of the 6th Void Realm, almost all of them have gone to the depths of Devil's Smoke Valley. Who would come to this outer area? The Saber Python Master said. You don't say. Not long ago, we ran into one. It was the infamous God Fey Master, Heavy Master said. What? God Fey Master came to this outer region? Saber Python Master was shocked. That is indeed the case. Heavy Master and I were pursued by him. Fortunately, Bloodsword Master helped us to get out of the situation. Moreover, the place where he was pursuing us was nearby. We don't know if the appearance of this broken Paluo God part will attract him here, Purple Sound Master said. It shouldn't be. Heavy Master shook his head. Has the appearance of this Paluo God component caused too much of a commotion? The only ones who can discover it are the experts who just happened to pass by the Black Thunder Earth Pool. After these experts discover it, they will at most pass on the news to their own forces, but they will definitely not make this matter completely public. After all, they also want to snatch this Paluo God component. Naturally, they do not want too many people to know that this Paluo God component was born here. As for that God Fey Master, although it is true that he is extremely powerful, he is an expert who travels alone. Who would tell him the news of the appearance of the Paluo God parts here? As long as he doesn't happen to pass by this Black Thunder Pool, then he won't be able to participate in this battle. Millimeter, that makes sense. Purple Sound Master and Saber Python Master both nodded. At this moment, in the void beneath their feet, Paluo God trembled slightly. He was about to break free from the Black Thunder Pool. Paluo God's component is about to be born. Saber Python Master's eyes lit up. Everyone, be prepared to fight for it at any time, Heavy Master said. Once something happens to Paluo God's component, I'll immediately use my space-time domain to suppress them, Jian Wushuang said. With your space-time domain, Bloodsword Master, their speed will be greatly restricted. This will increase our chances, Heavy Master said. It was obvious that Jian Wushuang did not want to expose his name, so Heavy Master now called Jian Wushuang Bloodsword Master. Buzz. With a shrill cry, the Paluo God component, which was trapped in the Thunder Pool, finally broke free from the Thunder Pool. The aura of a universe true treasure instantly spread out. It's born. The eyes of the 12 great beings who had been waiting around all lit up. Attack. Snatch it. In an instant, each great being emitted a terrifying aura as they directly rushed toward the Paluo God part. Atax Master, who was standing alone in the void realm like a statue, had already taken out his huge axe. In an instant, he turned into an ancient fierce beast and dashed out. The 2 experts of the 5 void realms who were standing together also rushed out at the same time. As for Jian Wushuang and the other 3, Saber Python Master, Heavy Master, and Purple Sound Master all rushed out at once. Jian Wushuang was the only one who did not rush out. Instead, he took out the golden sky painting banner and used the space-time domain. Buzz. The enormous space-time domain covered the area around the Paluo God component. In addition to Saber Python Master, Heavy Master, and Purple Sound Master, the other experts in the area were also affected. They were all slowed down by the enormous speed. A domain-type true treasure? No, this feeling should be a space-time true treasure. The great beings who were trapped in the space-time domain had a change of expression. However, at this moment, without any warning, a large amount of golden light suddenly shone. With Atax Master as the core, the crimson gold flowing light surged like a raging ocean. In the next moment, it filled the entire battlefield. Within the crimson gold flowing light, Atax Master seemed to have become the ruler. Even Jian Wushuang's spacetime domain was greatly impacted by the crimson gold flowing light. A domain-type true treasure. This is a domain-type universe true treasure. It's Atax Master. Damn it. were both trapped in the spacetime domain at the same time, so were much slower than the golden light. But 8-Ax Master used the golden light to block the spacetime domain, so his speed isn't affected at all. Quick! Block 8-Ax Master. The great beings who were eager to get the Paluo God parts started to get anxious. 8-Ax Master was originally the strongest among them, and his speed was also the fastest. Now that 8-Ax Master's speed was not being suppressed, he could be the first to appear in front of the Paluo God parts and take them away. Once the Paluo God parts fell into 8-Ax Master's hands, if they wanted to fight for them again, there would be no chance at all. After all, if they wanted to fight for the treasure from 8-Ax Master, they would definitely have to think of a way to kill 8-Ax Master. But who here had the strength to do so? Even if everyone joined hands, they probably would not be able to do anything to 8-Ax Master, right? Thus, everyone understood that they absolutely could not let the Paluo God component fall into 8-Ax Master's hands. Immediately, the Principal's Masters who were still some distance away from the Paluo God component all made their moves. All of them made their moves almost at the same time. Even though they were some distance away, the 8-Ax Masters did not dare to ignore their attacks. Chapter 35-34, Battle. However, facing the attacks of the surrounding people, 8-Ax Master merely smiled coldly. The huge axe in his hand suddenly drew a beautiful scar in the air, forming a huge axe shadow. It swept away the attacks of these Principal's Masters with ease. So powerful. We have so many people working together, yet he managed to sweep them away with a single axe. He's too powerful. We can't stop him at all. The expressions of these Principal's Masters were extremely unsightly. Their attacks were unable to stop 8-Ax Master, and they were not even able to obstruct 8-Ax Master. They could only watch as 8-Ax Master approached the Paluo God component. 8-Ax Master appeared in front of the Paluo God component, and he waved his hand. He was about to put the Paluo God component into his interspatial ring. The surrounding Principal's Masters all had helpless expressions on their faces. But at this moment, a scarlet sword light suddenly lit up beside 8-Ax Master. What? 8-Ax Master's expression suddenly changed. This sword light had appeared too suddenly, and its angle was extremely tricky. As soon as it lit up, it stabbed toward his throat. Most importantly, that sword light was too fast, so fast that he could not swing his huge axe in time to block it. Moreover, this sword light contained an astonishing piercing power, which made his heart palpitate. He did not dare to face it with his godly body. There was nothing he could do. 8-Ax Master could not be bothered to retrieve the Paluo God component anymore. Instead, he retreated hastily. With this rapid retreat, he once again widened the distance between him and the Paluo God component. At this moment, a figure appeared beside the Paluo God component like a ghost. Then, with a simple wave of his hand, the Paluo God component had already fallen into his hands. This sudden change caused the surrounding Principal's Masters to be somewhat stupefied. They had originally thought that no one present could stop 8-Ax Master, and that the Paluo God component was bound to fall into 8-Ax Master's hands. Unexpectedly, at this crucial moment, someone had suddenly appeared beside 8-Ax Master. Furthermore, he had forced 8-Ax Master to retreat, and he had obtained the Paluo God component. The three most shocked ones were the Heavy Master, Saber Python Master, and Purple Sound Master. They had clearly seen the other party's appearance. It was Jian Wushuang, who had cast the spacetime domain behind them. It's Bloodsword Master. It's him. Isn't he behind us? When did he run to the Paluo God component? The Heavy Master, the Saber Python Master, and the Purple Sound Master could not help but turn around. They found that the void where Jian Wushuang was previously was empty. However, when did he leave for the Paluo God component? No one noticed him at all. The shadowless escape art at the exceptional level is very useful. Cultivators below the 6 realms of the void, as long as they are not particularly good at soul perception, can hardly detect my presence, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. He had learned the shadowless escape art in the Temporal Temple. It originated from the Bloodsword Master, a very terrifying Principal's Master in the Temporal Temple. When the shadowless escape art was used, it could disappear without a trace. it could hide from the soul detection of a cultivator. Jian Wushuang had mastered the shadowless escape art long ago. He had not relied on it to kill or escape from enemies during battles on more than one occasion. For example, when he was adventuring in the Bloodwave realm, he had relied on the shadowless escape art. At that time, he was recognized as the best assassin at the saint level in the divine beginning realm. However, at that time, his mastery of the shadowless escape art was still in the initial stage. Even if he had mastered it later, he could only hide it from the soul detection of some principles masters of the 3 or 4 void realms. However, not long ago, during the 600 years that Jian Wushuang had been in seclusion in the Star Palace, he had finally mastered the shadowless escape art to the perfect level. The shadowless escape skill at the perfection level was not much weaker than the Bloodsword Master at his peak. Under normal circumstances, only principles masters above the 6th realm of the void realm could sense it, or experts at the 5th realm of the void realm, who were particularly good at soul perception, could sense it. Just now, when everyone was fighting for the Paluo God component, Jian Wushuang had actually moved. However, he had used the shadow escape skill to move forward, so no one noticed his existence. It was not until Atax Master approached the Paluo God component and was about to take it into his hands that he made his move decisively. He forced Atax Master back and took the Paluo God component himself. "I'm sorry to have wasted your time." Jian Wushuang looked at everyone with a smile. However, except for Heavy Master and the other 2 from the same camp, the other principles masters all looked at him with fierce eyes. Especially Atax Master, whose eyes were full of killing intent. "How dare you snatch food from my mouth? You're courting death." Atax Master growled. His aura suddenly soared, and in an instant, he charged toward Jian Wushuang like a furious beast. Wherever he passed, the air was forced back by the overwhelming killing intent. "Bloodsword Master, be careful," Heavy Master shouted. "Let's go." The principles masters from the other camps would not give up just like that. They charged forward one by one, but their target was no longer Atax Master, it was Jian Wushuang instead. "Quick, stop them," Saber Python Master growled. In an instant, he joined hands with Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master to find a way to stop the principles masters around them. With their strength, with the help of the spacetime domain, more than half of the principles masters around them were successfully stopped by them. However, 3 people still broke through their obstruction, especially Atax Master, who was in a rage. No one could stop him. Seeing Atax Master and the other 2 principles masters who had reached the 5th realm of the void, Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly and disappeared in front of everyone. Disappeared? Damn it, where did he go? The 2 principles masters of the 5th realm of the void looked gloomy. They scanned the surroundings with their soul power, but they could not find any trace of Jian Wushuang. As for Atax Master, he also released his soul power, trying to find Jian Wushuang, but he found nothing. Can he hide his special secret skill from soul detection? Atax Master's face darkened. No, it's impossible for his secret skill to hide from the cultivator's cultivation detection. The reason why I can't find him is because my soul perception is not strong enough. In that case, Atax Master was stunned. He flipped his hand and took out a purple bead. Chapter 35-35, Suppression is that, a soul golden pearl? The principles masters around them all noticed what Atax Master had brought out. It's a soul golden pearl, and it's of an extremely high level. Its value is also extremely shocking, and it's equivalent to 1/3 of a low-level universe true treasure. Under normal circumstances, a soul golden pearl of this level would be used to swallow and strengthen one's soul resistance when it's attacked by the soul. Of course, after a cultivator consumes it, his soul power will soar, and his soul sensing ability will also be greatly enhanced, Heavy Master said seriously. Atax Master is really generous. Purple Sound Master sighed. On the battlefield, everyone saw Atax Master take out the purple pearl and swallow it without thinking. After swallowing it, his soul power and soul perception ability increased greatly. In a short time, his soul perception ability would not be weaker than an ordinary expert of the 6 void realms. With the help of the soul gold pearl, Eight-Axe Master immediately found Jian Wushuang. I found him, Hez there. Eight-Axe Master's eyes were cold, but he appeared in an empty void. This void was also in the battlefield. It seemed empty, but Eight-Axe Master knew that Jian Wushuang was hiding here. Die! Eight-Axe Master shouted and swung his giant axe at lightning speed. The void was almost split open, and Jian Wushuang's figure appeared in the void and retreated rapidly. You found my position by consuming treasures. Eight-Axe Master, you're quite skilled. Jian Wushuang smiled. Boy, hand over the Paluo God component and he'll let you go. Otherwise, Eight-Axe Master stared at Jian Wushuang with a cold gaze. Otherwise what? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. Eight-Axe Master, you think too highly of yourself. I just didn't want to go through so much trouble, so I used my escape art to leave. Do you really think I won't dare to fight you face to face? Huh? Eight-Axe Master frowned and stared at Jian Wushuang. Eight-Axe Master, since you've found me, I'll play with you. Jian Wushuang had already pulled out the Blood Mountain sword behind him and looked at Eight-Axe Master with interest. Very good. Eight-Axe Master's voice was cold, and his body suddenly rushed out. This time, Jian Wushuang did not have the slightest intention of retreating. He also went up to meet him. Just as he was about to fight with the Eight-Axe Master, Jian Wushuang activated his life divine power. Of course, he only activated his life divine power. As for the heaven-cleaving skill, he was not in a hurry to use it. However, even though he only activated his life divine power, the power that Jian Wushuang unleashed was not weaker than that of the Void Five-Realm Principles Master. In addition, the first stage of the Blood Crystal Armor magnified his advantage in basic divine power. In terms of power, he was not much weaker than Eight-Axe Master. Eight-Axe Master, take this. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but the Blood Mountain sword in his hand slashed out rapidly. A huge blood-red sword light with a violent aura suddenly swept out. It was the Peerless Sword Manual, Shixiong. Get lost. Eight-Axe Master growled in a low voice, and the huge axe in his hand swept out in a mighty and straight manner. He did not hold back in this axe attack, and he did his best. In his eyes, he was an expert at the peak of the 5th level of the Void, yet he was facing this Principles Master who had no reputation before and whose aura was extremely ordinary. He could definitely crush him. However, the moment the axe shadow he swung out truly collided with the blood-colored sword light, the Eight-Axe Master was stunned. The blood-red sword light contained an extremely violent power. When it collided with the axe shadow, it was shattered and even the giant axe in his hand was slightly changed. He staggered backward. This is a level 6 absolute art. Eight-Axe Master was still a little stunned. However, Jian Wushuang had already rushed out like a ghost in front of him. Whoosh! Another sword attack. This sword attack emitted a terrifying tearing force and directly tore apart the void. It was the Peerless Sword technique, Star Dream. Eight-Axe Master subconsciously raised his hand to block the sword attack, but the tearing force contained in the sword technique made him stagger again. How can this strength be so strong? Eight-Axe Master was extremely surprised. However, Jian Wushuang began to perform his swordsmanship. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. One after another, sword lights were displayed from Jian Wushuang's hands. Some of these swordsmanship were swift and violent, some were strange and enchanting, and some were terrifying and oppressive. Most importantly, each of these swordsmanship was extremely powerful. Every sword attack forced Eight-Axe Master to defend with all his strength, but it was only a passive defense. He could not find a chance to fight back. He's too strong. His strength is no weaker than mine, and his swordsmanship is too terrifying. The Eight-Axe Master was a little terrified of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. Because Jian Wushuang had fought with him many times, he had displayed many swordsmanship, and each of these swordsmanship was a 6th-level absolute art. It should be known that a 6th-level absolute art was compatible with an expert in the 6 realms of the Void. Although the 5 realms of the Void could create 6th-level absolute arts, like him, it was very difficult to create a 6th-level absolute art. However, Jian Wushuang had not only created a 6th-level absolute art, but he had also created more than just one sword move. Many of his sword moves had reached the 6th-level absolute art level. What he did not know was that although Jian Wushuang was not a true Principles Master, in terms of real strength, he was definitely not weaker than a Principles Master of the sixth realm of the Void. Most importantly, his talent in Sword Principle was extremely high. Along the way, he received many incredible opportunities. For example, 600 years ago, the Heaven Ancestor, a ruler-level expert, gave him a demonstration of the axe skill. The axe skill had greatly affected him. He often came into contact with experts of the six void realms and even fought with them. Naturally, his swordsmanship had improved greatly. Up until now, his 7 sword moves of the Wushuang Sword Manual had all reached the level of a 6th rank absolute art, all have been elevated to the level of level 6. Under the premise that their powers were about the same, Jian Wushuang had the absolute advantage in the competition of strength and ultimate skills. Don't get cocky, kid. After being suppressed by Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship for a long time, 8-Axe Master was finally enraged. A golden lightning suddenly flashed from his body, and a terrifying aura burst out from his body. His eyes turned scarlet. "Are you going to use your killer move?" Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. "It's good that I'm tired of playing. It's time to end it." Chapter 35-36, Thunderpool. Jian Wushuang's expression turned cold, and a shocking destructive will suddenly rose up. "I won't stop until I die." Whoosh! The sword was instantly slashed out. The moment the sword was slashed out, the shocking destructive will also immediately rose to the extreme. The destructive will, filled with hatred and endless destruction, directly covered 8-Axe Master. 8-Axe Master had also displayed his strongest skill. The giant axe in his hand seemed to cover the void and oppress the whole area. However, the mighty shadow of the axe, after it collided with Jian Wushuang's sword light, which was determined to die. Clang! With a crisp sound, 8-Axe Master's body slightly sank. The light in the axe shadow immediately dimmed, and his move was instantly disintegrated. However, this was only the beginning. After destroying his axe shadow, the astonishing sword skill with a terrifying destructive will came crushing toward his divine body again. A majestic power directly hit 8-Axe Master's divine body. Su. The 8-Axe Master was unable to control his godly body after being struck by this power. His entire body suddenly fell downwards like a cannonball. One had to know that this place was in the Black Thunder Pool. The ground of the Black Thunder Pool was covered with black divine lightning. The power of those black divine lightning was extremely tyrannical. Ordinary Principles Masters would not dare to step into it. However, because of the impact of the power, 8-Axe Master's entire body was smashed into the Thunder Pool below. The Thunder Pool instantly surged with a large amount of black divine lightning, crazily covering 8-Axe Master like a wave. This scene caused the surrounding Principles Masters to be shocked. 8-Axe Master was actually struck into the Thunder Pool? Is 8-Axe Master dead? This man defeated 8-Axe Master and hacked 8-Axe Master into the Thunder Pool? The Principles Masters widened their eyes and looked at the Thunder Pool below, exclaiming in disbelief. However, Jian Wushuang ignored them. After hacking 8-Axe Master into the Thunder Pool below, he withdrew his Blood Mountain sword and performed shadowless escape art. 8-Axe Master was still in the Thunder Pool. As soon as Jian Wushuang performed shadowless escape art, the surrounding people did not know where he was. Naturally, they could not obstruct him. He directly passed through the battlefield. He walked out of the Black Thunder Pool. At the same time, he sent a message to Heavy Master to ask them to leave. Heavy Master, Saber Python Master, and Purple Sound Master immediately retreated. The few Principles Masters did not stop them. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang and the others had disappeared from everyone's sight. After Jian Wushuang and the others left, the Thunder Pool below suddenly rumbled. Then, 8-Axe Master, who was emitting a terrifying murderous aura, struggled out of the Thunder Pool. The Black Divine Thunder in the Black Thunder Pool was powerful and posed a great threat to ordinary Principles Masters. However, 8-Axe Master was an expert at the peak of the 5th Void Realm, and he was wearing armor at the level of an elementary universe supreme treasure. He could barely resist the erosion of the Divine Thunder. He had been trapped in the Thunder Pool for only a moment, so his life was not in any danger. However, he had consumed a lot of divine power. After he got out of the thunder pool, he immediately looked around with his ruthless eyes, but he did not see Jian Wushuang again. "Where are they?" Eight Axe Master shouted in a low voice. "Eight Axe Master, the people from Star Palace, including the one who fought with you, have left," an expert of the Fifth Void Realm said. "Left?" Eight Axe Master's face darkened slightly, but he could only shake his head helplessly. Jian Wushuang had already obtained the Paluo God component, and then he fought with him and defeated him. At this point, Jian Wushuang would naturally choose to leave. Moreover, even if Jian Wushuang had not left, what could he do? To snatch the Paluo God component from Jian Wushuang again? Was that possible? Jian Wushuang had already proven his strength in the battle just now. Even if he did not use the shadowless escape art to fight him head-on, he would definitely crush him. If the Paluo God component fell into the hands of such an expert, he, Eight Axe Master, was completely helpless. "Do you know the name of the person just now?" Eight Axe Master asked. "I don't know. That person is very unfamiliar. He must have just entered the universe battlefield not long ago, so we don't know him. However, he is with Saber Python Master and Heavy Master. He is most likely from Star Palace," the expert of the Five Void Realms said. "Oh right, I heard Heavy Master call him Bloodsword Master just now." A Void 4th level Principles Master beside him said. "Bloodsword Master?" Eight Axe Master's eyes narrowed slightly before he nodded. Bloodsword Master should be his title. Furthermore, his sword techniques are strange and terrifying. When he executed his sword techniques, he left behind streaks of blood-colored sword light in the void. He indeed deserves this title. Eight Axe Master, you have just fought head-on with Bloodsword Master. What do you think of his strength? Asked the Principles Master of the 5th level of the Void Realm. There were dozens of astral worlds around the 3 universe battlefields, and there were countless forces of all sizes. There were countless great beings, and these great beings were all adventuring in the 3 battlefields. Naturally, they had to know themselves and their enemies well. For example, if an extremely powerful expert appeared in the 3 battlefields, it would not take long for everyone to know his name and information. It was because of this information, the various forces did not deliberately hide it, and most of them were willing to share it. Their encounter with Jian Wushuang this time also showed that Jian Wushuang's strength was extraordinary. However, only the Eight Axe Master, who had really fought with Jian Wushuang, knew what level Jian Wushuang's strength was at. Therefore, the surrounding Principles Masters all wanted to know Jian Wushuang's specific battle strength level from the Eight Axe Master. They all wanted to know the level of Jian Wushuang's battle strength from the Eight Axe Master so that they could be prepared when they fought with Jian Wushuang in the future. After a moment of silence, the Eight Axe Master spoke directly. Bloodsword Master's aura alone is not very strong among Principles Masters, but his battle strength is extremely terrifying. The power he possesses is not much weaker than mine and has reached the peak of the 5th Void Realm. However, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is his unique skill, his sword skill. His swordsmanship is too terrifying. When he fought with me, I saw that among the swordsmanship that he displayed, there were at least 5 sword techniques that had reached the level of a 6th-tier ultimate art. Especially that last sword technique that he displayed. If I'm not mistaken, that should already be a peak 6th-tier ultimate art. Chapter 35-37, or an absolute art at the peak of level 6. The surrounding Principles Masters were all shocked. If Jian Wushuang's creation of several initial level 6 absolute arts was only a surprise to them, then the creation of an absolute art at the peak of level 6 was enough to completely shock them. This was because under normal circumstances, a peak stage 6 absolute art could not be created without the battle strength of the 6th realm of the void. The power that Jian Wushuang displayed just now was only at the peak stage of the 5th realm of the void, but with this absolute art, he was probably not much weaker than an ordinary expert of the 6th realm of the void. This Bloodsword Master's swordsmanship is really terrifying, and his other methods are also very brilliant. For example, the time and space domain that he displayed just now, as well as his strange escape skill, are even more amazing. With all these methods combined, his threat to ordinary Principal's masters is probably no less than that of an ordinary expert of the sixth realm of the void, Atax Master continued. However, the strange thing is that Blood Sword Master's offensive magic weapon doesn't seem to be very high level. It's not even a universe true treasure. If he can get an offensive magic weapon at the level of a universe true treasure, his combat power might be able to improve even further. Hearing Atax Master's words, the Principal's masters all secretly drew in a breath of cold air. In their eyes, Jian Wushuang was already terrifying enough. Would he not be even more terrifying if he took another step forward? Atax Master, thank you for informing us. The Void Five Realm Principal's master cupped his hands and then turned to leave with the people around him. The other Principal's masters knew that there was nothing to fight for, so they naturally left one after another. In the end, only Atax Master was still standing there. Blood Sword Master, Atax Master's face was solemn, but his mind was full of thoughts. I don't know why, but I always feel that he didn't use his full strength when he fought with me. Even when he used his ultimate skill at the peak of Stage 6, I still feel that he didn't use his full strength. What's going on? Atax Master was a little confused. In fact, his intuition was right. Although Jian Wushuang had shown many skills in the fight, his real battle strength had not been fully unleashed. He had never used the Heaven-Cleaving skill alone. Once he used the Heaven-Cleaving skill, it was equivalent to an additional portion of his willpower. His strength could crush Atax Master in an instant. However, Jian Wushuang did not do that. Instead, he deliberately reserved his strength. The reason why he fought head-on with the Atax Master was that Jian Wushuang wanted to use the Atax Master to train his swordsmanship as much as possible. After all, he had already taught an absolute art at the peak of level 6. Although he had gained enlightenment from the Heaven Ancestor's axe and mastered the destructive will, he had created this absolute art. It meant that he had reached a new level in swordsmanship. After reaching this level, he could also improve the 7 sword moves in the Peerless Sword Manual. Although these sword moves could not reach the peak of the 6th level like the fight to the death, they could still be improved to the advanced level of the 6th level. Since he wanted to improve, he naturally needed to spend time and practice. The Atax Master was not weak, so his battle with him was undoubtedly a form of training for Jian Wushuang. Unfortunately, the Atax Master definitely did not know about this. In the void outside the Black Thunder Pool, Jian Wushuang, the Heavy Master, the Saber Python Master, and the Purple Sound Master gathered together again. However, at this moment, the Heavy Master, the Saber Python Master, and the Purple Sound Master looked at Jian Wushuang with a hint of shock. After all, they had seen with their own eyes that Jian Wushuang had snatched the Paluo God component from Atax Master. Moreover, Jian Wushuang had fought with Atax Master head-on, and most importantly, he had crushed Atax Master. Atax Master was an expert at the peak of the 5th Void Realm. Moreover, he was very famous. How strong was Jian Wushuang to be able to crush such an expert head-on? Heavy, didn't you say that Blood Sword Master had just become a Principal's master not long ago? Where did you get the news? Purple Sound Master looked at Heavy Master with some resentment. Just broke through? Are you kidding me? Blood Sword Master's strength is not much weaker than an expert at the 6th Void Realm. How could he have just broken through? Saber Python Master said directly. Heavy Master was at a loss for words. 600 years ago, he had indeed seen that Jian Wushuang was only at the Immortal Saint realm, but the battle strength that Jian Wushuang displayed today, it was definitely not something that a person who had just broken through to become a Principal's master could possess. Is it really as Marquis Duanyu said, that when Heavenly Sword Marquis was at the Immortal Saint realm, his strength was no less than mine? Heavy Master muttered in his heart. Jian Wushuang, who was standing next to the three of them, saw this scene and smiled. There's no point in talking about these things. All I need to do is get my hands on the Paluo God component. Yes. The Heavy Master nodded, but he was sure that he was looking at Jian Wushuang in a completely different way now. In this world, no matter where they went, the experts would always be respected. These cultivators also respected the experts in their hearts. Previously, Although the Heavy Master no longer looked down on Jian Wushuang, and his relationship with Jian Wushuang had eased, it was mainly because of Jian Wushuang's life-saving means and because Jian Wushuang had saved him. Moreover, he was able to escape from the hands of God Fei safely. It could be said that the Heavy Master had only been grateful to Jian Wushuang before, but he did not have any respect for him. However, it was different now. The Heavy Master was completely in awe of Jian Wushuang now because he knew that Jian Wushuang was much stronger than him. It was not only him, but also Saber Python Master and Purple Sound Master. Blood Sword Master, congratulations. That Paluo God component is a good thing. Saber Python Master sighed softly. It is indeed a good item. However, the Paluo God component was obtained by the four of us together. Although I put in a little more effort, I can't monopolize it. So, let's discuss how to distribute it, Jian Wushuang said. Upon hearing Jian Wushuang's words, Saber Python Master, Heavy Master, and Purple Sound Master were delighted. Of course, they were full of desire for the Paluo God parts. However, because of Jian Wushuang's strength, and because of his overwhelming strength, they had obtained the Paluo God parts in this competition. Therefore, if Jian Wushuang did not mention the distribution, they would definitely not mention it. But now that Jian Wushuang had taken the initiative to ask for it, they naturally wanted to share it. After all, they had contributed. Chapter 35-38, Distribution. Bloodsword Master. Our Star Palace actually has some rules about the distribution of treasures, Heavy Master said. Oh, tell me about it. Jian Wushuang looked at him. First of all, the first expert who finds a true treasure and sends the news must take a share. Under normal circumstances, the first one to find a true treasure can take 10 to 20% of the share. Secondly, during the treasure competition, the rest of the share will be distributed according to each person's contribution, Heavy Master said. And this time, Saber Python Master was the first to see the Paluo God parts, and he passed the news to us. Only then could we rush over in time to fight for them. Saber Python Master would definitely get a share. In addition, during the fight, Saber Python Master had more or less put in some effort, so it shouldn't be too much to get a 20% share. As for Purple Sound Master and I, we only gave those cultivators some hindrance during the fight. The others basically didn't do anything. In the end, it was almost all thanks to you, Bloodsword Master, that we were able to get the Paluo God parts. Therefore, it's already pretty good that Purple Sound Master and I can get a 10% share together. The remaining 70% will all go to you, Bloodsword Master. Bloodsword Master, Saber Python Master, what do you think of the distribution? Heavy Master knew his own limits. He and Purple Sound Master did not put in much effort in this competition. They would be satisfied if they could get 10% of the shares. I don't have any objections. After all, I didn't put in much effort in the competition. I only found the Paluo God component and passed the news to you. It's already a lot to get 20% of the shares. Bloodsword Master, what do you think? Saber Python Master looked at Jian Wushuang. In fact, the distribution was just their wishful thinking. They mainly had to see if Jian Wushuang would accept the distribution. If Jian Wushuang did not accept it, of course, they would make some concessions. However, Jian Wushuang gave a forthright smile and said, as long as the three of you are satisfied, of course I won't have any objections. Well, it's settled then. Saber Python Master smiled. Bloodsword Master, you can send a message to Axe One Master. He controls the true treasure vault of our Star Palace. The experts of our Star Palace need his permission to exchange for treasures in the true treasure vault. At the same time, if we get any treasures, we can go to the true treasure vault and exchange them for contribution points. The Paluo God parts are useless to us. In the end, we must exchange them for contribution points. Ask him how many contribution points he will exchange for the Paluo God parts, and then we will distribute them according to our respective shares, Heavy Master said. Okay, I'll ask him now. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and immediately sent a message to Axe One Master. My young friend, you said you got the Paluo God parts. Axe One Master could not help being surprised when he received Jian Wushuang's message. After all, The Paluo God component was quite famous in the universe battlefield, and its value was extremely precious. Jian Wushuang had obtained a Paluo God component not long after he set off for Devil Smoke Valley. It was truly a rare stroke of luck. Axe 1 Master, this Paluo God component was obtained by me, Saber Python Master, and Heavy Master together. Now, I want to ask how many contribution points this Paluo God component can be exchanged for in the True Treasure Vault, so that we can share it, Jian Wushuang said. Well, Axe 1 Master pondered for a moment, then he said, although there have been a lot of Paluo God parts in the universe, not many of them have been spread in the universe battlefield. There are also people who are eager to get a Paluo God part. As far as I know, 2 of them have obtained 2 Paluo God parts and are eager to get a third one. Their prices are also very high, so the Paluo God part is naturally very valuable. If you want to exchange it for contribution points, you can get 350 contribution points. 350 contribution points. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and cut off the communication. Bloodsword Master, what do you think? The Heavy Master and the Saber Python Master looked at Jian Wushuang eagerly, especially the Saber Python Master. After all, he could get 20% of the total contribution points. In his opinion, 20% should be a significant amount of contribution points. Ladies and gentlemen, the contribution points given by Axe 1 Master are 350 points, Jian Wushuang said. 350 points. Upon hearing this number, Saber Python Master and Heavy Master were stunned at first, but then they were overjoyed. Haha, I knew it. The value of the Paluo God parts is very shocking. It must be higher than the value of an ordinary advanced universe true treasure. Now it seems that it is true. Saber Python Master laughed loudly. 350 contribution points. That's close to the value of an advanced universe true treasure armor. Haha, we really made a profit this time, Heavy Master said with a laugh. Jian Wushuang had a strange look on his face. After all, he had never been to the Star Palace True Treasure Vault, so he had no idea about these contribution points. He had thought that 350 contribution points was not a big number, however, judging from the expressions of Saber Python Master and Heavy Master, the contribution points should be quite a lot. Gentlemen, are 350 contribution points a lot? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, of course. Saber Python Master nodded. Bloodsword Master, let me put it this way. In the Star Palace's True Treasure Vault, ordinary offensive magic weapons at the level of elementary universe true treasures can only be exchanged for 10 contribution points, while offensive magic weapons at the level of advanced universe true treasures can only be exchanged for 100 contribution points. As for the Paluo God parts, they are directly exchanged for 350 contribution points, which is equivalent to the price of 3.5 advanced universe true treasures. That's right. Purple Sound Master and I can only get 10% of the total, but that's still 35 contribution points, which is equivalent to 3.5 low-level universe true treasure attack weapons. I exchanged my true treasure armor for Purple Sound Master, and that true treasure armor was only worth 42 contribution points. This time, Purple Sound and I came to Devil Smoke Valley to find a way to get more contribution points to exchange for the true treasure armor, and now, almost all of them have returned. The point is, I didn't take any risks when I got these contribution points, Heavy Master said with a laugh. His face was full of surprise and joy. Purple Sound Master, who was beside him, was also smiling. Chapter 35-39, Adventuring Alone this time, Heavy Master and Purple Sound Master had come out to explore together. They had come out to find a way to get enough contribution points, and then they would exchange Heavy Master's true treasure armor back. But now, the 10% share of this Paluo God component had almost all been returned. As for the Saber Python Master, he was even happier. He had received 20% of the share, which was 70 contribution points, which was a huge fortune for the Saber Python Master. Of course, they could not compare with Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang alone could receive 70% of the share, which was 245 contribution points, which was more than 2 advanced universe supreme treasures. The Paluo God part is in my hands now, but I don't have any contribution points. I can only give you the contribution points when I return to the Star Palace and go to the Supreme Treasure Vault to exchange for it. But the problem is that I just came out of the Star Palace and don't want to go back immediately, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. That's okay. Purple Sound Master and I just came out of the Star Palace and didn't expect to go back so soon. You can give us the contribution points later when you return to the Star Palace. What about you, Saber Python Master? Heavy Master looked at Saber Python Master. I'll return to Star Palace soon, but I'm not in a hurry for the contribution points. I can wait in Star Palace for a while, but how long do you plan to stay in Devil Smoke Valley? Saber Python Master asked. I think I'll stay in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley for now. After a while, I'll go to the core area of Devil Smoke Valley. I'll definitely go back to Star Palace before entering the core area, Jian Wushuang said. Bloodsword Master, are you going to explore the core area of Devil Smoke Valley? Heavy Master looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise, but he immediately understood. That's right. With your strength, you can go there. However, there are many experts in the core area of Devil Smoke Valley, which is much more dangerous than the outer area. You have to be careful. Of course. Jian Wushuang smiled. In that case, I'll go back to Star Palace and wait for 1 or 200 years. When you return to Star Palace, you can send me a message, Bloodsword Master, Saber Python Master said. No problem. Jian Wushuang nodded. Since it's a deal, let's part ways again. Goodbye, both of you, Heavy Master said and then left with Purple Sound Master. Saber Python Master cupped his hands at Jian Wushuang and turned to leave. Jian Wushuang stood in the void and looked around calmly. Devil Smoke Valley, one of the 3 battlefields, not only contains countless opportunities and precious treasures like the Paluo God Parts, but also countless experts from the surrounding star worlds. Although the experts in the outer area are not as good as those in the core area, they are enough to practice swordsmanship. My goal in Devil Smoke Valley is to reach a very deep area, the special place that the Shui Bei Master discovered. However, there are too many unknowns and it's too dangerous. Therefore, before venturing into that special place, I must improve my strength to the peak that I can temporarily reach. Naturally, I must improve my swordsmanship first. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He already had a detailed plan in his heart. He would stay in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley first, not only to familiarize himself with the illusion in the battlefield, but also to hone his swordsmanship. After he had completely improved his swordsmanship and reached a new level of strength, he would set off for the core area of Devil Smoke Valley until he went to the special land discovered by Shui Bei. Let's begin. Jian Wushuang smiled and immediately flew to the side. Half a day later, 2 figures were flying side by side in the void outside Devil Smoke Valley. One of them was a white-haired skinny elder, and the other was a chubby bald youth. They walked together with a relaxed expression. It was normal. After all, they were both Principal's masters in the 5th realm of the void and had extraordinary life-saving skills. If they worked together and did not encounter a madman like God Fei Master in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley, or they were seeking death by intruding into dangerous places. Otherwise, no one would be able to threaten them. However, halfway through, a figure suddenly blocked their way. The person who stood in their way was Jian Wushuang. Who are you? The white-haired skinny elder stared at Jian Wushuang coldly. Bloodsword, Jian Wushuang answered. Bloodsword. The white-haired skinny elder and the fat bald youth immediately recalled the information they had read about the experts, but they found that there was no Bloodsword Master. Bloodsword, you must be an expert who has just appeared, right? The chubby bald young man smiled. Do you know who we are? Of course I do. Master Yun and the chubby master are from the ancient Yuan star world. You two have always been famous in the universe battlefield, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. You know our names, but you still dare to stand in front of us. Boy, you have guts. The chubby bald young master flipped his hand, took out a fruit, and took a bite. He looked at Jian Wushuang with interest. It's because I know your names that I came here. If it were a weaker principal's master, I wouldn't be interested. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, let's cut the crap. Let's fight. Thanks, it seems that you really don't care about us. The chubby master praised. He had casually thrown away the fruit in his hand. He knows their strength, but he still dares to come to us. He must have something to rely on. Fifth brother, don't be careless. Let's attack together. Master Yun said. Okay. The chubby master nodded. The next moment, the two attacked at the same time. Jian Wushuang immediately drew his Blood Mountain sword and went up to meet them. In an instant, a great battle broke out. Jian Wushuang fought against two masters at the same time, relying on his swordsmanship to fight against Master Yun and the chubby master. The battle was extremely fierce, but it did not last long. Soon, Jian Wushuang chose to retreat. Thank you for your guidance. Goodbye. Jian Wushuang said goodbye and turned to leave. Master Yun and the chubby master had no intention of keeping Jian Wushuang. Chapter 35-40. The name Bloodsword. What was the Bloodsword Master's intentions? The chubby master took out another fruit and ate it while watching Jian Wushuang leave. I don't know. Although he came to us, it seems that he doesn't really want to be our enemy. After fighting with us, he just left. If I'm not mistaken, he just wants to fight with us, Master Yun said. Purely to have a battle with us? Could it be another battle maniac? Chubby master sighed. The three universe battlefields had gathered dozens of experts from the astral worlds around them. There were simply too many of them. And with so many experts, their temperaments were naturally different. Among them, there were some who liked to kill, like God Fei Master. They almost killed anyone they saw, but at the same time, there were also some who liked to challenge others. They would take the initiative to fight with others to improve their strength. These crazy killers only pursued fierce battles, but they did not pursue killing. They were completely different from God Fei Master. In the eyes of Master Yun and the chubby master, Jian Wushuang was the second kind of crazy killer. It's better to meet a crazy killer than a crazy killer. Bloodsword Master is very strong. If he really kills us, we might not be his match, the chubby master said. Two maybe. Master Yun nodded slightly. The two chatted for a while and then continued to move forward. From this day on, Jian Wushuang had indeed become a battle maniac. He roamed the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley, looking for experts everywhere, and then took the initiative to fight with them. The opponents he found were usually experts of the Fifth Void Realm with some strength. Of course, he would not miss the chance to meet experts above the peak of the Fifth Void Realm. But no matter who he fought with, he was almost evenly matched. He did not have any advantage in a fight. He did not have any advantage in a fight with an ordinary expert of the Fifth Void Realm, but he did not have any disadvantage either. However, he was the same when he fought an expert at the peak of the Fifth Void Realm. The reason for this was that Jian Wushuang had deliberately reserved his strength from the beginning to the end. When he fought with these experts, he would try his best to control the power of his divine power and then try his best to hone his swordsmanship. He would rely on himself to gain an advantage. For example, when he fought with an ordinary expert of the Fifth Void Realm, Jian Wushuang basically did not even activate his life divine power. He would rely on his own will and the power of his basic divine power, which was equivalent to the power of the peak of the Fourth Void Realm. Then he would rely on his swordsmanship to fight fiercely with his opponent. No matter who he fought with, he would always control his power to be weaker than his opponent, and then try to maximize his advantage in swordsmanship. In this way, he could better hone his swordsmanship. Of course, his unbridled challenge naturally attracted the attention of all the great beings in the surrounding astral world. The name of Bloodsword Master gradually began to spread in the universe battlefield. Not long after, everyone who was adventuring in the universe battlefield knew of the existence of Bloodsword Master, and this Bloodsword Master was a madman who loved to fight. Recently, he had been crazily challenging experts from all over the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley. As for the strength of Bloodsword Master, experts from all over the universe were unable to accurately gauge Jian Wushuang's strength. This was because all the experts who fought with him were basically evenly matched. They only knew that his swordsmanship was extremely good. However, Bloodsword Master had defeated 8 Axe Master in the fight for the Paluo God parts. Therefore, the Star World's definition of Jian Wushuang's strength was that he was a Principles Master at the peak of the 5 Void Realms. At the same time, he was very close to the level of the 6 void realms. As for his challenges in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley, anyone could see that he must have used these battles to hone his strength. Star Palace, in the secret pavilion. Recently, the Bloodsword Master who has been wandering in the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley seems to be quite famous, Marquis Duanyu said. It's like this. Moreover, I heard that this Bloodsword Master is from our Star Palace, but when did our Star Palace have a Bloodsword Master? 7 Emotions Master looked puzzled. When Axe 1 Master heard this, he smiled. Bloodsword Master is indeed an expert from our Star Palace. He is the Heavenly Sword Marquis that Marquis Duanyu brought back from the Divine Beginning Realm. It's just that when he roamed Devil Smoke Valley, he deliberately used the alias Bloodsword. It's him. 7 Emotions Master had a strange expression. If I remember correctly, this Heavenly Marquis Sword should still be an immortal saint. He hasn't broken through to the Principal's Master, right? He hasn't broken through. Axe 1 Master nodded. I've told you before that the Heavenly Sword Marquis isn't weak. Even if he ventured into Devil Smoke Valley alone, you don't have to worry. You didn't believe it, but now, you believe it, right? A mere immortal saint actually defeated 8 Axe Master and seized Paluo God's component. Moreover, he made such a name for himself in Devil Smoke Valley. This is a little too terrifying. 7 Emotions Master couldn't help but exclaim, oh right, why did he crazily challenge all the experts in Devil Smoke Valley during this period of time? I've asked him about this before. He said that he was honing his sword techniques. Axe 1 Master smiled, oh right, only a few of us know that Bloodsword Master is the immortal saint. Please don't leak this out. Of course. We're not stupid enough to leak this out. However, if he encounters an extremely powerful ruler-level expert while adventuring in Devil Smoke Valley, you'll be able to see through his level of strength. When that time comes, he'll definitely leak it out, and it'll definitely cause a sensation. 7 Emotions Master said. We'll talk about it later, but for now, just keep it a secret, Axe 1 Master said. The surrounding people also nodded. As time passed, Jian Wushuang continued to wander around the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley, challenging experts from all over the place and honing his swordsmanship at the same time. In a flash, 50 years had passed. Outside Devil Smoke Valley, there was a vast black land. Wang. A faint aura of a true treasure surrounded it. In the center of this land, a long spear surrounded by a faint purple godly thunder slowly rose from the ground. This long spear, however, judging from its aura, was clearly a universe true treasure. Even though it was only a low-level universe true treasure, after it was born, there were still many great beings attracted to it. Right now, there were no less than 10 great beings standing around the long spear. Among them, there were 2 great beings at the 5th level of the Void Realm. They were all waiting for the long spear to be born completely, and then they would start fighting for it. Chapter 3541, Master Dragon Hawk Hong. Suddenly, an aura fluctuated, and the black spear that everyone was staring at finally rose up from the ground. The moment the spear rose up, the surrounding principal's masters instantly moved. One by one, figures rushed down at the fastest speed. Everyone wanted to rush to the front of the spear and put it into their interspatial rings. But right at this moment, Wang, a layer of spacetime principal's energy suddenly spread out. As soon as this layer of spacetime principal's energy appeared, it instantly covered the entire void. In the blink of an eye, it formed a massive spacetime domain. The numerous principal's masters who had rushed toward the spear at the first moment also immediately fell into this spacetime domain, their speed drastically decreasing. What's going on? A spacetime treasure? What a powerful spacetime domain. My speed has been suppressed by so much. These principal's masters were all secretly shocked. After the spacetime domain appeared and suppressed the speed of all the principal's masters present, a figure appeared in front of the black long spear. With a simple wave of his hand, he put the black spear into his interspatial ring. After that, he slowly turned around. What a strange escape art. We didn't notice that someone was beside us. This person is Bloodsword Master. It's him. It's rumored that he has a space-time domain and an extremely strange escape art that can hide from the soul detection of cultivators. It seems that it's true. The surrounding principal's masters had already recognized Jian Wushuang. However, after knowing that the long spear had fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands, the principal's masters immediately gave up the idea of fighting for it. In the past 50 years, Jian Wushuang had roamed the outer area of Devil Smoke Valley and constantly challenged experts from all over the place. This challenge had made him extremely famous. Among the experts he had challenged, there were at least 10 experts at the peak of the Fifth Void Realm. However, after the fierce battle with Jian Wushuang, these experts all admitted that Jian Wushuang had not displayed his strongest strength. During the time he had fought with them, he had not displayed his strongest strength. Even so, Jian Wushuang could still slightly suppress them. This led to the judgment that Jian Wushuang should be able to fight against experts of the 6 Void Realms. Such an expert had a strong life-saving ability. If the long spear fell into his hands, who would be qualified to fight for it with the surrounding principal's masters? Moreover, the long spear was only an elementary universe supreme treasure. It would be unwise to snatch it from Bloodsword Master for such a supreme treasure. Everyone, I'm sorry to have made you wait in vain. Jian Wushuang smiled and looked around at the principal's masters. Bloodsword Master, you're too kind. If we had known you were here, we would have left long ago. Everyone knows that you, Bloodsword Master, have a powerful space-time domain, and your speed and movement techniques are very strange. It's simply asking for trouble to snatch the treasure from you, a purple-haired man said with a smile. Yes, with you here, Bloodsword Master, how can we compete for the treasure? Another man also smiled. Jian Wushuang also smiled. He could see that the principal's masters present were very good to him. After all, in the 50 years he had been wandering in Devil Smoke Valley, although he had challenged countless experts, Jian Wushuang had never killed any of them, regardless of whether they were strong or weak. In the fierce battle, he had even made friends with many experts. Among them, there were experts from various star worlds and forces. In addition, Jian Wushuang was very strong, which made people respect him. Naturally, the principal's masters treated him better. Bloodsword Master, you've already got the long spear. You don't want us to stay and fight you one by one, do you? The stronger expert of the 5 Void Realms among the principal's masters said. That's not necessary. If you want to leave, you can leave now. But Master Dragonhawk is an exception. Jian Wushuang's eyes locked on one of the principal's masters in the crowd. Me? Master Dragonhawk, who was wearing cyan armor and had eagle-like eyes, looked surprised, but then he smiled and said, Bloodsword Master, are you going to spar with me? Yes, it's you. Jian Wushuang nodded. His eyes looked calm, but there was a hidden killing intent in the depths of his eyes. Master Dragonhawk did not notice this killing intent. The surrounding principal's masters also looked at each other with strange expressions. There were no less than 10 principal's masters present. Master Dragonhawk's cultivation was only at the peak of the 4th realm. Among these principal's masters, he was definitely not the best and was stronger than him. Obviously, there were 2 experts of the 5th realm of the void. Generally, experts who like to fight would definitely challenge the experts. Why would they challenge the weaker ones? Therefore, they initially thought that Jian Wushuang would only challenge 2 experts of the 5th realm of the void. They did not expect that Jian Wushuang would challenge Master Dragonhawk. Although it was strange, they did not pay much attention to Jian Wushuang as he had never killed anyone in the past 50 years. Master Dragonhawk still greeted them with a smile. It's rare for Bloodsword Master to think highly of me. I, Dragonhawk, will have to risk my life to accompany you. Master Dragonhawk, show me your strongest strength. Jian Wushuang's expression was cold as the Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hand. Be careful. Master Dragonhawk reminded him as a hook-type magic weapon appeared in his hand. His body swayed slightly and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The hook also strangely bypassed the special curve. It went straight for Jian Wushuang's throat. The moment Master Dragonhawk made his move, Jian Wushuang's expression turned completely cold as he activated the life divine power in his body. During the past 50 years, when he sparred with others, even if he needed an ordinary expert of the Void 5 realms, he he would not easily activate the life divine power in the beginning. Master Dragonhawk was only at the peak of the Void Four Realms, but Jian Wushuang had already used the life divine power in the beginning. Not only that, his power had also reached its peak at this moment. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand, with an unprecedented violent aura, drew a beautiful blood-red mark in the void and suddenly slashed out furiously. Peerless Sword Manual, Shi Xiong, boom. The sword light swept out with earth-shaking power. In addition to the heaven-splitting skill, Jian Wushuang had already used his strongest power and strength. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.